Okay, so looking at joints, I'm going to start with something that's already has a couple things together. Joint is in the assemble little panel over here, and we're going to do a regular old joint that maybe looks like a set of lungs, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. It's going to ask you, okay, which components do you want to move? And the first thing you click is the one that moves, and the second thing you click is the one that it moves to. So I'm going to grab this piece, and I'm going to grab a random point on it. Let's see, that pops up. I'm going to turn my pan around. I want that to connect to this point right here, to this piece. So I'm going to click that, and there it goes. But you can see a problem already. Those don't line up, not even close. Now I can try to shift this down if I knew the exact dimensions that I wanted to shift down, but that's kind of annoying. I don't want to do that. So instead of doing that, I want to make sure that basically these edges line up. These happen to be the same dimension. So I'm going to pick 2 points I know would coincide on that. So I'm going to start a joint. I'm going to pick this point right here, which is actually the center of that rounded edge. So if that rounded edge continued to be a circle, that's the center of it. I'm going to pick that because I know there's a similar rounded edge on this side, on this piece. And I can bring it to that joint. And if I do that, that mates those up so they line up with each other. So it's already aligned happy. So that's good. And it does give you some options. Again, you can adjust here with the arrows. You can adjust here with the rotating it. And it's going to pivot around the point that you set. So I'm going to set that back to 0. Then it defaults to, yes, that worked. It defaulted to a rigid joint, which actually in this moment was what I want. Just to show you the other options here. As you look at the motion, I move my face out of the way. That's fine. The default is to go to rigid, which means the two are fixed together and they're not going to move relative to each other. They're glued together. You can think of it that way. You have a revolute, which means it's going to have revolve around the axis that you choose. You can have a slider, where it's going to slide along the axis that you choose, but won't revolve and won't translate any other direction. So one will spin, one will slide. If you want to do both of those things, that's a cylindrical component. So think of just a cylinder, a cylinder inside of a cylinder, which can slide back and forth and rotate. Right, so we can do both of those things as long as you specify the axis. You have a pin and a slot, which can rotate and move along a different axis. So basically, you're rotating with a cylinder, you're rotating and sliding along the same axis. With a pin and slot, you are rotating around one axis, but sliding along a different axis. Then you have planar, which basically might take your two hands and slide them across one another. It keeps these things in the same plane, but they can move in 2 dimensions essentially. And last but not least, a ball joint, which it's kind of like think of your shoulder. You can picture the bones in there, which is a ball and a cup, and they can pivot in there. That's a ball joint. So it can rotate around basically all three axes, but it's not going to move. It's not going to translate. Okay, so those are the motions they have to do with, and you can always animate to preview those motions as you go. If anything ever comes in the wrong side, if I can get back to where's my part, back to here. If I told this to flip this button down here because it landed on the wrong side, it just inverts the thing where like, oh, okay, you don't want it this way, you want it this way, you want them to line up. Okay, no, I actually don't. I'm going to flip that back so that they line up face to face. That's what that does. And you can input the alignment here, same adjustments that these arrows make. And here you get into some fancier versions of this, and we won't go into that now because we don't need it right now, and I want to keep things simple and straightforward. So those are the joints, and that's kind of the tour of the edit joint arena. Um, Good luck with the rest of it. Hope that helps. Stop sharing.